Here we are, guys. Hi. So, welcome to today's episode. I am so excited to speak to this lady. So, let me introduce you to this amazing guest. Now, she's a woman who's, well, when I read what she told me, you can use this as my profile. I thought definitely I'm going to use this as your profile because it was amazing. So, who is one of the most prominent and compelling fitness experts and race announcer in America. Now, she lives out in Florida, and I think most of the world is very jealous at the moment because where you live. So she's also the voice of marathons, the Los Angeles Marathon, Philadelphia Marathon, and so much more. She brings so much structure, joy, and energy into the sport, and I've seen it for myself. And you guys, you know, the links below, go follow her. She's amazing. She's also passionate about helping others get better in their lives, have a better life. And also she's, you know, through her company, obviously, Fitness. And what she's doing too is she's also inspiring millions of kids around the world. And I think that's so important as well, because there's so many kids out there that don't realize that as they get older, that, you know, life catches up on us. I know when we're all younger, we feel like we're invincible. So on that note, I want to introduce this amazing woman, Fitz, and your surname. I said it the other day, Koehler. Is that how you say it?
Koehler, yes, but I like the Australian accent much better.
Sorry. So welcome.
Thank you, Grace. I'm super excited to be with you. I love being with other happy people, and you qualify. So I really appreciate you having me on your show.
Oh, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. So like I said, you know, I sort of wanted to find inspiring women out there, because obviously we're going to be talking about, you know, the journeys we've both been on in breast cancer. But it's really important to show to people that it doesn't, and I say this a billion times, and I'm sure you do too, that it does not define us. We're not going to allow it to define us. So that's where my message is really important that I put out there, because it's like, well, look at all these amazing women and look what they're doing. So on that, so I guess let's start at the beginning. I guess just share your story from the beginning.
Yeah, so as far as breast cancer goes, I can tell you that my whole life and my career, I have made annual exams, self-exams, mammograms, part of who I am and what I do as a professional. And so I was getting those annual mammograms and seeing my gynecologist and all the other doctors, skin and eyes and whatever else. But in December of 2018, I went in and had my clean mammogram, walked in, no cancer. And less than 7 weeks later, I was in a hotel bathroom at a race weekend. Got out of the shower naked and just did one of these motions. I just scratched my under boob, and I thought, oh God, there it is. And it felt like a bean, like a black bean or a red bean, but it was a bean and it shouldn't have been there. And so this was a defining moment for me. Is I didn't call my mom and cry. I didn't Google it. I didn't ask my friends, what should I do? I immediately picked up my phone and called the gyno. Within 30 seconds, I had someone on the phone and I was making an appointment. So I found a lump on a Thursday, you know, got the appointment on Monday. I had a mammogram and ultrasound on Thursday, and the radiologist said, yeah, we see that lump is disconcerting, but you also have 3 hard swollen lymph nodes. And that's when my world kind of came in, because I knew exactly what was going on. And so punch biopsy the next day. I think 2 weeks later, I started chemo. And they were really, they were aggressive. They moved me through fast. Apparently, they didn't tell me this up front, but they said we were really worried about mean chemo. And some of you may recognize Taxotere, carboplatin, Perjeta, and Herceptin, words and drugs we wanted to know about. But I had 6 rounds of those, and they trashed me. I was brutalized. But then I had 10 months of a drug called Kadcyla, which is Herceptin plus something else. And I also didn't have a fun time with that. 30 rounds of radiation. I had a lumpectomy. They removed 11 lymph nodes. I'm fortunate that I escaped the full mastectomy, and I really do feel grateful for that, because I know it's brutal.
Yeah.
I did it. And I actually, even though I was whacked physically, I chose to thrive, survive trying to survive. And I traveled the country doing the work that I love. And I decided I wasn't giving up time with my kids or my career. And I held to that. And it was hard. It was really, really hard, but I'm really good at hard things, and it worked out for the best.
Well, that's what I mean, because when you talk about that, this is someone who's going through the worst type of chemo.
Yeah.
And now I didn't do it, but I know of people who've done chemo. So I've seen how it depletes a person. But like you said, to be able to have that spirit and keep going, keep moving. And I also like the way, and I'll get you to share a little bit about that, but I also like the way that you say too, that had you not lost your hair, no one would have known that you were going through this journey. And I thought that's really interesting, because it's, like yourself, I guess you went through worse. When I say worse, you went through more than I had to. So I didn't lose my hair. I joke with people because I did cut my hair. Bad timing. Talk about bad timing. I happened to cut my hair because I had a really bad case of psoriasis.
Okay.
So everyone's like, oh, you cut your hair because of the cancer. It's like, no, I'm like, oh, well, it is what it is. But you know what I mean? But I like the way no one would have known. And it's the same with me. No one knew. Yeah. And I thought, yeah, because I'm moving forward. It's part of what I'm going through. And I'm just moving forward with that. But just explain to people, I know that if you don't mind, a lot of people go, oh yeah, chemo is really tough and it's really hard to get through. But if you can just also share with the audience, just what exactly does it mean by having a tough time through radiation? If you want to share a few things,
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. And as you know, I actually have friends right now that are running through chemo. They're out there doing 10 milers. Not everybody gets work. I did. And I basically had a violent stomach bug for 5 solid months. Every single day I was exploding. It was hard to keep food in. My taste buds were trashed. They say that this particular type of chemo kills rapidly dividing cells. And so that's your hair, but it's also all of your pink parts. So my mouth, my throat, my digestive system, everything was obliterated in some regard. And so just being so sick, and then it was dehydration and dizziness. And while violently ill, it just exploding and dizzy and sick and all those things and gray and bald, I was getting on airplanes and flying across the country, hosting 30 to 50,000 people every weekend. But, my nails rotted out on my hands. They smelled so bad. I mean, my eyes changed color. I used to have pale gray eyes.
Wow. Well, they're blue.
Right. So, I mean, it wasn't like a terrible change, but they went from gray to navy saucers. It was super weird. I couldn't sleep at night. My vision changed for a while. Thankfully, it came back. I mean, just everything, every single thing. And I would sleep on the hotel bathroom floor some nights. And then at 4 a.m., my alarm would go off. I'd get up and I'd go get on my stage. And that was really the miracle involved in what I do, that I love it so much that once I stepped on those stage, I transformed back into Fitz Koehler again. And I could do my thing. And what a great gift to turn my attention to all of these other wonderful people that are showing up to work hard and accomplish great things. So who, even in the worst situation, how do you think about yourself when you're surrounded by these incredible people? And so yeah, chemo whacked me. I lost, I'm a small girl to begin with, and I lost 12 pounds, which wasn't cute. My leggies were loose. I mean, I call it chemo butt. I went from having a round, perky, muscular butt to flat. I looked like I was 95 years old. One day I looked in the mirror and I went, that's horrible. So, a lot of
yeah. But it also, like, the thing is, you just sort of touched on that, and that's what I want to go to next, because how do you get through the toughest days? What motivated you to go through the toughest days?
Well, there's the motivation part, and then there's the functional part. And so the functional part is I went in for IV fluids almost every day for 8 months. They just They just kept pumping me full of fluids. I would get on a plane, fly to California, New York, whatever. I would get off the plane, and my race directors had arranged for medical personnel to meet me,
Oh, wow.
in all sorts of places. That runners had no idea this was going on. It was just like everybody was there trying to keep me going. So that was the functionality part. And just the other part is just, I so desperately love what I do. I love teaching fitness. I love serving as ringleader to this incredible sport. And I love those people. And so I always say my stubbornness is my greatest asset and my greatest curse. You were going to have to do a hell of a lot better than cancer and chemo to keep me from my event, from my people.
Yes, absolutely. I love it. And that just brings me how, like we just spoke about a little bit off air, but it just, how we didn't allow it to represent us. Like you, I do not go around wearing cancer survivor t-shirts and pink ribbon. And there's nothing against those that do. I just didn't want to put, if I'm going to wear a label, it's going to say, I effing love Grace. That's my label. That's me.
That's it. Fitz Koehler is my label. I haven't worn, I used to wear pink ribbons when they supported other women. And when it came from me, I thought, F you, I'm done. I will not label myself as a victim with this disease. And I don't imagine I ever will wear a pink ribbon. Now I'll wear pink all day. It's a pretty color. I feel great. But no thank you to the ribbons or the word cancer or anything.
Correct.
I don't want to be a part of that.
Well, the thing is too, because a lot of women I come across as well, and I'll ask you this question because this is something just popped in my head, because a lot of people use the word, I could swear on my podcast, fuck cancer.
Right.
And I'm thinking, well, were you the part of the fuck cancer, or I'm gonna love you until you leave me cancer? Which sort of side did you go on? I mean, obviously there's no good or bad.
I wouldn't be either, really. I certainly didn't love the cancer, but I also wasn't a big fuck cancer girl. I just, it was what it was, and I was going to do my best, and that was it. I mean, I certainly have friends who wore the big F cancer shirts, and I thought that was great. One of my girlfriends, Buffy, my runner, she gave me a F cancer hat. But I guess I'm just not kind of like a, I'm not
angry. I guess like the thing is too, because I mean, as much as it was horrible to get, but I found that mine was a blessing at the same time, because it was obviously something in my life that I needed to shift. And life was giving me the little feather going, Grace, you need to move on, you need to change. I'm like, nah, okay, Grace, I'm giving you the bat. And it's like, oh, okay. So that when I say that it's changed me, I appreciate it coming to visit, so I could have changed. You know what I mean? I needed to have a visit from cancer to go, whoa, sit up straight. And
I hear a lot of that. I'm a little of the opposite, where this whole experience just solidified who I already was. And so I hear a lot of people say, that was a fork in the road, and I realized I wasn't doing the right thing. I know more than ever I am who I want to be, and I'm doing exactly what I want to do. And God help everybody, because I'm a little more of an extreme version of me. I'm extreme with my commitment to my work and my enthusiasm for stuff. I mean, I finished chemo, and I think it was like 3 weeks later, I went out and did a triathlon, and then a week later, a Spartan race. I got my butt kicked on both of those things, but I'm just hungry for life. Yes. And so I'm more Fitz Koehler than I've ever been. Thanks.
Perfect. Yeah, that's what I mean. That, not thanks or fuck or something like that. You know what I mean? It depends. Exactly. So it just depends on which way you want to look at it. But it's so true, because people say, oh, I changed who I was. And I always say to people, you didn't change who you were. You just found who you were that's been lost for so long.
Right.
You've been there the whole time. You just lost it along life, So it's just telling you, come back to your true self. I really believe that. But, the thing is, you wrote an amazing book, which, believe it or not, and I'm not BSing, I was hoping to get it before this podcast. Yes, we're going to talk about it. So it is coming. And when I get a book, I read the book. Like start to end, I read it. But that's okay because it gives me another excuse to come and do another podcast with you because then we can discuss it. But your book, My Noisy Cancer Comeback. So first of all, why was it important for you to share your story and why did you name it My Noisy Cancer Comeback?
So the first thing that inspired me to write, and I didn't really know that I was going to write a book. I just thought, you know what? Why isn't anybody telling you this stuff? So they tell you off the bat, hey, you're going to start chemo, blah, blah, blah. You may be sick. You may be tired. You may lose your hair. And I did all of those things. But then all this weird stuff started happening. I thought, well, why didn't they tell me that? So I'm at a race. I'm at a race in California, and I have my nose is running. My hair had already come out, and my nose is running. I think I have allergies. I live in allergy capital of the United States, Gainesville, Florida. So I just thought my nose was running, and I had a million little tissues. It just was incessant. And so a girlfriend, Dana Sabatka, who I had met previously when I ran one race after completing breast cancer treatment, she ran through the finish line. I said, Dana, come on over to see me. And so it was, my first race out bald, right? And she said, how are you doing? And the reality was I was crazy sick, but I didn't want to tell her or anybody else what was really going on. So I said, oh, I'm fine. My allergies are just kicked in. And she looked over and she goes, you don't have allergies. I go, yeah, I do. I have allergies. She goes, you don't have any nostril hair. And I went, what? She goes, you don't have any nostril hair. And son of a gun, she was right. My nostril hair was gone. And so it just, it's pouring down my face. My nose still runs. It's almost 2 years later. So yeah, that was the weird stuff. And so the weird stuff kept piling on and piling on. And I kept thinking, why doesn't anybody tell you this? And finally I thought, I know, I'm going to tell them all about this because not only would they find it interesting, but people would get a really good laugh at my expense. I think, it's almost like when you're in a minority group, you can pick on your own minority group. Yeah. I've got your street cred, right? I can pick on cancer and cancer care because I've been there, done that. And so I thought, okay, people are going to enjoy that. And then all of this bizarro, I had all these misadventures because of my travels, right? Most cancer patients are kind of staying close to home, getting rest. I'm out. One of my chapters is called When Things Go Wrong, Don't Go With Them, Take It in, which I was when a crisis struck. And then one of the other chapter titles is The Bright Side of Poop on My Face. And that also happened. So yeah, I just thought it was crazy and funny and interesting. And then the professional in me that helps people do better and be better. And I thought, you know what? I mean, I haven't been perfect with any of this, but I think I've done a really good job of thriving while trying to survive. And I can help other people do the same. And so, perspective, passion, positivity, my mantra, I can do hard things right there. That became the tenets of my book that have thankfully, I've had hundreds and hundreds of cancer patients of all kinds reach out to say, oh my God, that book was legit helpful. I'm going to handle this so much better now, or it helped me through it. So yeah, it's been a blessing. I'm very grateful that I chose to write the book and that it's so well received.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, because as I can't wait to read it. But like you said, it's so important because the medical side tells you the medical side, they can only tell you that. And unless you've actually had a doctor who's gone through it themselves, it's hard for them to explain it. Like you said before, it's actually really hard to explain to someone. Like I've never given childbirth, I've never had children. So I can't explain what it's like. I could talk about it till I'm blue in the face, but someone will go, you've never experienced it. So it's really important that people out there share their story because the more you understand it, the less you fear it.
I agree. And I had no idea what some of the things that were going to hit me. When they hit me, it was overwhelming. And I am this very bold, very confident person. Once my doctors leveled with me and they said, listen, 94% of all breast cancer cases are curable.
Yeah.
Yours is particularly curable. I believe them. So, death wasn't really sitting on my shoulder the whole way. But I was being pulled apart. I felt like I was being torn apart limb by limb every day. And so I would just sit alone in my bathroom or in my car and cry. I would just sob. It was every day. And then when people would see me, I'd go, hey, I didn't even, within my family, I didn't want to burden them. I didn't want to, certainly not burden my coworkers or my runners. And so at some point I felt like the most popular lonely person in the world. It was just really, really hard. And I don't know if a doctor's warning could have taken away that loneliness, but it really did feel overwhelming. And when my fingernails rotted out, I was like, what is going on with me? Everything went wrong. So makes me super grateful that everything's going right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the thing is, like you said, because, unless your doctor can't tell you, you can't, and everyone's different, so no one's going to go through the same way, but it's just good to have some sort of, like you said, someone sitting there going, why are my fingernails rotting? Why am I all of a sudden, my nose is leaking? Why all of a sudden? Because the thing is, a lot of people go, yep, chemo, like, so most people know chemo, you lose your hair.
Right.
Okay. You get ulcers in the mouth.
Yes.
Then what? Of course, there's so much more. You know what I mean? But the thing is, and it's, I get also your book will be, and I'm sure you explain it in a way that it doesn't put the fear into them, but it just lets them understand.
Yeah.
By the way, this is what I experienced. So then when they do get to that point, they go, well, actually, Fitz went through this. She says it in her book. Oh, I get it.
Yeah. Oh, here's the other thing that gets a lot of great responses. So I talk about the things that the outside world that was weird for me. There was a handful of things that a lot of people did, and I thought it was strange. And then so cancer patients and caregivers they're pumping their fist because they're like, yes, please teach people. So first of all, when I was diagnosed, I had this incredible outpouring of love. And I would be a jerk if I didn't show tremendous appreciation for that. Yeah. But within that love, there was some people said, oh, you have breast cancer? Oh, just want to let you know, my mom died of breast cancer. And I was like, oh, why would you tell me that? That's terrifying. That stresses me out. And then so many people, oh, my sister died of that. And I was like, wait a minute. And so I know they were trying to connect and trying to say, hey, I feel for you. But what they did is, they reminded me of the lethality of what I was facing. And
absolutely.
So I was able to kind of laugh that stuff off in most regard with a question mark over my head. But I know that would probably destroy some people.
Oh, yeah.
They were told those things. The other thing people said was, it's just hair. And man, I tell you what, you're right. It's just hair. And I've always considered it a fair exchange for my life. But shave your freaking head if it's just hair. It's not
exactly
just hair.
Thank you.
To me, if I didn't like it, I would have gotten rid of it years ago. It's not just hair. And then the third thing is all of the people who once, they're like, oh, when your hair grows in, do you know it might be a different color? It might be really curly. It might be this. And I thought, really? So you think it's fun to talk about the fact that this beautiful long blonde hair that I loved and lost will never be the same. This is fun for you. And so, trying to convince people that what the information and you want to talk about, it's not necessarily appropriate. So when someone comes to you and says, I have cancer, what you say is, science is incredible. They are curing far more people than losing. I will be there for you and I will do anything to support you. I'm praying for you. I'm rooting for you, whatever. But yeah, there's this other thing. And I talked a bit about that. And that's, I think I feel really good about delivering those messages.
Well, it is important because I just went and had my yearly breast check. So 3 years cancer free. So, and that's exactly what happened. I'll tell you exactly what happened. The first thing you said, because I walked in and my doctor, she's just seriously, I love her because she's a straight shooter. She's an amazing woman. And she gets my paper and she's like, yeah, everything's good. And I'm just sitting there and she's wondering, well, why aren't you happy? And I just looked at her and I shook my head and she said, what's going on? And I said, what's going on is, and it's my fault, of course. I said, I'm going through all this social media and I'm part of different groups. And all I kept concentrating on is, hey, I was cancer-free for a year and it's come back. Hey, I was cancer-free for 2 years and it came back. Hey, I was cancer-free and now it's back and now it's worse and now it's terminal and now I'm going to die and da-da-da-da-da. And I said, why am I thinking that's my story? It's not my story. So it's exactly what she said. And I also actually had someone say to me, oh, no offense, Grace, my mum died. And I'm like, what? My mum died of cancer. My mum did die of cancer 8 years ago. So I lost my mum to, now I can't remember if it's uterus. It's one of those things that me and my sisters debate on, whether it was uterus cancer or cervical cancer. But she did have a secondary cancer, which was breast cancer. But it was one of the other ones that, she passed away with. But if I looked at that, I'd be dead before cancer even got me. Does that make sense? Because I'd be living in fear.
Right.
So, and the other thing you mentioned is people saying things like, oh, it's just hair or it'll grow back or, oh, the thing is before people would say, I had cancer myself, if people said, I had cancer, I've just been diagnosed with cancer, I would actually say to them, I don't know what to say, but I'm here. Because as much as you want to support the person, like you said, unless you're educated, don't say anything. You know what I mean? It just makes it worse.
Things. Just say positive things. Anything that's kind-hearted will do.
Exactly. Say things that'll be, but I got that too. Oh, and I'm not sure if you did, but I got my mum cured herself because she drank the juice of red beans after she's put it in the oven for 14 hours. Oh, mine, I don't know, did something else. And I'm thinking, we're not all the same, guys. It's not, if I had to try everything that was ever suggested to me, I'd probably die of poisoning before anything.
So a couple things. My daughter just was recently employed and the boss is a little extravagant. And she told my daughter, she said, oh, your mom shouldn't have done chemo. I could have healed her with my hands.
Yeah.
My daughter's so smart. But where did it go? It just chemo brain. We were talking about.
No, just saying how, trying different things, people telling you to try different things.
This is where I was going, is that what I decided right away is I had two girlfriends. One had Cheryl Tyrone, who just finished breast cancer treatment. And then my friend Helen was going through it at the time. Those were the only two people outside of my medical team I was willing to share and ask for advice. Everybody else, because everyone was saying, oh, like my cousin's aunt's brother's boss has breast cancer and I can put you in touch. And again, they were being generous, but I laser focused. I picked a surgeon, an oncologist, a radiation oncologist that I thought were genius. There was the A team, and that was all I needed. And then I had a few girlfriends who were going through it. Other than that, I put on blinders and I said, no, thanks, but no thanks to every bit of advice. And I highly recommend that route. It really
absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Because I talk about people who you have to have a dream team. Now, this dream team, I call it the dream team, because the thing is, when I walked out of the surgeon, because I actually got a second opinion. So my first surgeon, I'm not here to bag her or anything, but she wanted to do an auxiliary clearance in all my lymph nodes. And I wasn't really too keen on that because I thought, if you don't need to do it, why are you doing it? So I wanted to get a second opinion. And it's a blessing, this other one that I met. But when I remember I'm sitting in the car, obviously you're in shock. And my husband said, right, I need you to put a dream team together. And I remember looking at him going, what are you even talking about? And he's like, you need to put a dream team. No matter who it is, they will discuss everything. So what I did was I contacted 5 of the closest people around me. Now, they're into Western medicine, holistic, none of them, all of them, everything, all types. You know, I even had one guy who we called him MS-DOS because he knew everything out there in the computer world, you know. And so what we did is we actually sat down and I said, right, guys, this is what we're dealing with. And I spoke to these people like, we're in it together. This is what we got. However, whatever decision I made, my husband would have backed it up 10,000%.
And that's really, I think, a point that all patients of all kinds need to know is that your doctors are service providers and they are consultants. You make the decision. And so mine would offer up, hey, this is what I recommend. If you do this, there's a 94.3% chance we're going to kill it. If you add on this thing, it's almost like being at a restaurant and saying, yeah, I'm going to have the onions on top of it. I got to choose. And if there was something I didn't feel comfortable with, I said no. And what I learned, it took a little bit of time, but I was a wimpy patient. Needles make me cry. They still, if I had to go be poked today, it would make me cry. If somebody dared try to poke me in the chest again, oh my God. But I had a few grouchy medical providers. I had two specifically cranky nurses, and I wish I would have stood up better for myself, but I did say no, thank you. I told my oncologist, I said, I will not see that person again. I'm going to only see Lily right now. And he was like, okay, you can have Lily. And so it was scary enough. The whole thing was so scary and so stressful. I think it's actually stress was greater than fear, that I needed to attach myself to those caregivers that were going to make me feel cared for. And so I hope everybody does kind of stand their ground when it comes to the medical providers they're utilizing and willing to see, because with cancer, you keep going back, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Because like I say, it's not going anywhere for me and yourself, in the sense we don't have the cancer, but we're going to have it checked, all the time. And I don't care, but exactly that, what you said was, talk to your medical advisors, because I went in my case, and I always say disclaimer, I did go to my radiologist, but in my type of breast cancer, the radiologists, the bad was overriding the good. And then in the oncologist, it was the same thing, because I asked questions. Though I didn't go in there going, oh, well, someone said if I meditate in the sun, it's going to heal me. I didn't go in there with that. I went in there with, okay, what is the medication I need to take? What are the side effects? What does this happen? And I mean, I'm looking at my age. I'm looking at my type of cancer. And I remember the oncologist, she put it in a little spreadsheet, like a little chart came up. It was quite funny. And when she showed me, I was like, oh, so what am I? Because one of my options was to take a particular tablet, but in my case, it would have created a higher risk of a secondary cancer.
Oh, Lord.
So I said, well, what exactly? So I said, well, what's another option? And she said, well, another option is you have a hysterectomy, but that could cause you to have it increases. And this is what a lot of women don't realize. Once we actually go into menopause, it actually increases the chances of heart attack. So I'm like, oh, well, hang on a minute. So because I was asking questions, believe it or not, that oncologist in the end said, you need to get out of my office. I don't have time for you. And I thought, but I'm asking questions because, and that's what I talk about. Please ask a billion questions. Today, when I talk to my surgeon, I'm going to try and ask her so many questions. I don't know if she's giving me 15 minutes, half an hour, but I'm going to shoot through some questions, because it's important to ask. It's important, like you said, to have a dream team. Now, when I just went in 2 weeks ago to my surgeon, the lady in the I was getting my ultrasound, and she felt the need to tell me, oh, yes, this is looking good. This is looking good. And I thought, don't do that, because had it been the opposite, I don't want to hear it from the girl doing my ultrasound. I want to hear it from my doctor. And I remember saying to my doctor, you know what, Chantal, I said, it's like she's telling me, what's the use coming to see you? Now, I meant it as in, if she's going to tell me the news, why would I have to come to a doctor? And I'll never forget, behind her mask, because we have to wear masks here, behind her mask, she says to me, "Oh no, Grace, you will be seeing me every year." And I thought, you know what, Chantel, I will see you every 6 months. I don't care, because this is part of my life now, but I'm not going to make it my life. Does that make sense? And I have done that. And I'm not sure if you have, where I lived in fear longer than I lived in cancer. And I'm the first to admit that. But I thought to myself, I can't, because even my husband I would be cancer free. Grace, good to go. See you. And then my husband would say, well, that's another 364 days before you start freaking the hell out again. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I have a great ability to compartmentalize. So even once I found my lump, I was like, okay, I'm at a race weekend. I can't do anything about this now. So I'm not going to focus on it. I'm going to focus on the opportunities at hand. And so I'm a science girl. That really goes a long way. And given the data I've been presented, I truly believe there's a 1.2% chance this breast cancer is coming back. So, okay. I mean,
absolutely.
I would hate it, but I don't walk around in fear. Now, I did have a scare a couple of weeks ago, right next to my port. So this is my port scar, and they use sutures to stitch it up. And right over here, I have this like solid mass, which, oh God, it's back. This is horrible. They believe it's a suture. But for about 10 days, I was living with this thing in the back of my head that, oh God, it's back. What is this going to look like now? Am I tough enough to do it twice? I just agreed to run the Boston Marathon, and I thought, well, I agreed to do it, so I'm going to do it. Now, the whole thing, thankfully, it didn't come to fruition, but yeah, we will always have this little shadow behind us. Absolutely. And it's our job to just say, get away. I'm done unless I need to be. I will be diligent, and I will show up to the doctors every 6 months. And if I have anything weird, I will report it immediately, but I'm not going to live in fear. Cancer will not rule the rest of my days. I'm done.
Absolutely. I agree. And that's exactly, because like yourself, where they've taken out my lymph nodes, every time they go over it, and it hurts. It's like, that hurts. It's a big scar, but they're like, oh, is that a lump? And I'm like, is it a lump? But to me, it's like, oh, is it my lymph nodes? But then they go over it 100 times, and then they're like, oh no, that's the scarring of the where you got cut. So, you know what I mean? But then I get, like yourself, I get sensations. And I got told actually by the first breast surgeon, she said 95% of the time when women feel something, it's natural. It's nothing. But here I am going, oh, I'm feeling it. Oh, okay. It's
well, let me ask you this. Your cancer, did it ever cause pain?
Never.
No.
Never.
Cancer never actually hurt me. The treatment for it beat the hell out of me, but I never had an ouch because the cancer was there.
Yes. And I agree. When I got, because I was going as well, because having my mum having cancer, it was 5 years I was getting told, see you in 12 months, see you in 12 months, see you in 12 months. And then when she told me that there's something there, she said, oh, so did you feel anything? I'm like, did I feel anything? Oh, hang on, let me think. No, did I? It started making me question myself, my sanity. I was like, was I supposed to feel it? Is it supposed to knock on my door going, hey, guy, I'm here? I don't know, but I didn't.
This is the other thing I find super fun. So my whole life I've been fairly modest. I mean, I'm a Floridian, so I wear bikinis, but I've never been like the girl to strut around the locker room naked. And now I am the girl. I go into the doctors. They're like, can I look? And I'm like, whoop, I have flashed so many people last week when I went in for the thing and everything. I think I literally lifted up my shirt and bra for 4 different people. And it used to be, oh, put down. Now it's just, yeah. I'm one of those now.
I get you, because when I went 2 weeks ago, my surgeon's talking, and I'm there stripping my clothes, and I'm sitting there chatting with her, and she's asking me questions about my rings and that. And I'm just sitting there fully exposed, like, couldn't care. Seen it enough, it's quite funny. Yeah.
If I could have a doctor show up at my house and look at my boobs and grope me every single day and say, oh, you're fine, things are good, great. I mean, I would let friends and family, anyone want to come over and grope my boobs? Send me
Well,
an
that could
email.
be
We'll set it up.
that could be something that you can talk about. Like, okay, women, this is what we're going to do. Like a bunch of friends today, we're going to actually check ourselves, and do that. That's
So
even fun.
so as I traveled bald, I definitely I weaponized my bald head. And so many of the places where I was working were cold. So I would show up in a fuzzy hat just because it was cold. I never once wore a wig or a hat because I was embarrassed. I just didn't do it. But I would get on these stages and I had like 10,000 people show up. I host the Wonder Woman series. And so
Oh, wow.
10,000 mostly women lined up. And then I'd go, I'd say, can I borrow your attention for 60 seconds, drop the music. And then you could see, 10,000 people all of a sudden. It was, oh my God, she's bald. Oh my God, she's got cancer. You could see it. And so I, weaponized the head. It was a great way to hush a crowd. And then I just said, hey, this is what I'm doing. I found my own lump 7 weeks after a clean mammogram because I squeezed my stuff. I found it. We're killing it. There's a light at the end of the tunnel for me. So now what I need you to do is take your hands, put them in your shirts, squeeze your stuff. I mean, all on stages, I was like groping myself, but it's your hands and your stuff.
Absolutely.
And you modest guys, take your hands, put it in your pants, squeeze your stuff, and then ask your romantic partner to squeeze your stuff. Ask your friends and your neighbors and your running BFF. And I don't care. You know what? Touch each other. Touch each other.
The thing. Exactly. It's part of the human body anyway. So you know what I mean? But the thing is, yeah, I get it and again, it's because, like you said, 95% of women diagnosed or, particular breast cancers. And the thing is, each time every year there's early detections and things like that. So we're not living in the dark ages. So you feel something, don't be frightened, because so many times it ends up being just a fatty tissue, but make sure it is. That's all it is, because you don't want to get to the point where you've ignored it and then it's grown and manifested.
Yeah. Find it stage 1, stage 2, not a stage 4 nightmare. It's on your lungs, it's on your liver.
Exactly. That's what I mean, So, and this is what I also do too now, because when I go for the last couple of times I had to go for a 6-month checkup because one of my lymph nodes was swollen. Excuse me. But that was because I actually had a cold at the time. But they just wanted to make sure and everything like that. So every time I was going in, I'm like, well, you know what, Grace, you got nothing. But if it is, it's only 6 months old.
Right. Yeah.
Or if you've got nothing, awesome. But if it is, Grace, it's only 12 months old. So that's where I just go, you know what, we got to do this, because I would rather catch it at 12 months and not ignore it.
Yeah. That's why I go to every annual exam, and I'm rigid about eyes and skin. I actually go to skin every 3-4 months. I've had a couple of people die in my family of melanoma, and being the Irish Floridian, I really need to watch that. But yeah, I mean, I don't understand the people who just ignore their health. Maybe I also don't understand people who are just eating gobs and not exercising and just take no respect for their body. Because I tell you, if someone looks at you in the face and says, you have cancer, the only one thing you will wish for however long is your health. The carbs won't matter, the outings, the this, the that. You will wish for 0 things on earth other than your health. And so prioritize it today. And, as a fitness expert, I tell people, prepare your body to do battle right now, because you never know when illness or injury will strike. Absolutely. And if you are healthy, fit, and strong going into any sort of crisis, you will be far more likely to rebound, rehabilitate, and survive than those who took crap care of their bodies.
Absolutely.
This happened. I mean, like the COVID stuff. I don't want to be political, but if you are 30 and you're in a high risk category because you were obese,
well, exactly. Yes.
Right. What the hell are you thinking? So you shouldn't have a comorbidity unless you've been screwed with genetics or a horrible accident.
Oh, exactly. And I agree with you, because the thing is, it's and I get what you're saying with the COVID as well, but it's true, because when they talk about COVID hitting certain people and people dying from it, have a look at those people. They got underlying issues. Right. So like you said, if you are looking after and we do hear you're an athlete yourself, right?
Yes.
So
but
it can happen to anyone, right? But like you said, exactly that. It could happen to anyone at any given time. But if you have that upper hand, it's going to be a lot smoother. But if you don't, you're going to have a long road.
So here's the thing is, at one point it was round 6 of the mean chemo, my final round of mean chemo. I went into my oncologist and I was a basket case. I was just, so much of me had been destroyed. And I was there for round number 6. So I was like crying and he said, Fitz, you've done so great. And I said, no, I haven't. He said, no, really, you've done so great. And I said, why are you saying this? He said, listen, I'm not telling you you haven't suffered. He said, you weren't so fit coming into this. You wouldn't have been able to travel the country every weekend.
Exactly.
You would have been hospitalized, not for one night. You would have been hospitalized for a month, which probably would have included feeding tubes, which probably would have included possible infections. There's this cascading effect of horrible stuff if you're less than healthy when you go in. And so he said, I know you suffered, but it would have been way worse had you not already took such impeccable care of yourself. And so then it really kind of resonated with me. But yeah, you got to do it. Today matters. And if you're someone who's not taking care of yourself right now, start tomorrow. Come to fitzness.com and I will teach you how. I just want you to understand how you need to take care of your body, and then I need you to do it. And if you need a poke in the chest, I'll do that for you too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they say that sitting is the new smoking.
Yeah.
So things like that. And what happened was, and again, I'm not getting political as well with the COVID whole thing, but it has affected a lot of people as well. And a lot of people are sitting, a lot of people aren't moving, but also, speaking to my surgeon just recently, a lot of people are not going for their annual recalls. They're not going for their checkups. They're not doing all this stuff because they have a fear of getting the COVID. I'm thinking, okay, I don't know, what do you want to call me? But I think I probably, and I'm not putting it out there, but I probably have a bigger chance of getting cancer than I have of COVID. So I would rather shoot that in the foot when I get the chance.
Well, you probably have a bigger chance of dying of cancer than COVID.
Well, correct.
It has a 99.99999% survival rate. Is not something that we should shut down society over. And in fact, last year, what really pissed me off, and I was still doing chemo when this whole world shut down type thing, but when they were shutting down mammograms, when they were stopping mammograms, and my oncologist was saying, he said, Fitz, it's not that new cases of cancer aren't popping up. It's that people aren't being diagnosed. So they're going to show up next year with stage 4 nightmares. Yeah. I do believe some of these politicians, our Dr. Fauci here needs to be.
I agree.
Firing squad, death by fire.
I agree.
The kindest thing, because that man is responsible for far more deaths than COVID at this point. The cancer death, they said, don't go to the ER if you've got flu-like symptoms. Well, P.S. flu-like symptoms are often a heart attack.
Absolutely.
A bunch of reckless bozos who just treat, sick care is different than healthcare. If they wanted healthcare, they would have come to me and I would have all the answers, but I told you the difference between, shutting down annual exams.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you want people to be healthy, you tell them to get the hell outside, exercise, watch what they put in their mouth. You don't lock them in their homes for a year.
Well, this is the thing. We're actually in we're coming out of this is our stage 4. So Melbourne has overridden Wuhan. And everywhere else in the world. We just, every time, and if I'm not sure if you hear of the cases, but every time you hear of the cases, if I say to you, we have 65 people, you're going to go, oh my God, 6,500 or 65,000. And I'm like, no, 65 people. I'm in a state of 6.5 million people. Now, they're shutting us down. So people are not allowed out. They're not allowed out. You're not allowed to go out. You could go. What's happening is people are just getting complacent. They're sitting on their butts. They're watching their Netflix. They're getting their takeaway food because it's just so much easier than going out there, having to wear a mask and things like that. And you can get into a lot of trouble. We have I don't know how to say it in miles, but it's 5 kilometer radius here, which is very minimal. You're like, seriously, it's like almost driving 6 minutes. That's it. That's how far you can go. Things like that. And that does have an effect on your health. So when I hear that, these places that women need, you've got to recall, like this last lockdown, I got a text message from my surgeon saying, oh no, it's still good to go. You're coming. And I'm like, I couldn't care if I had to break my 5 kilometer radius thing. I'm going.
Well, I tell you what, and I love Australia. I'd like to very much come to Australia, but us Americans, we pride ourselves on being the land of the free and the home of the brave, and that's not something unknown to the rest of the world. And to see Americans roll over, yellow-bellied Americans roll over and give up their freedom should be disconcerting and disturbing for people around the world, because if Americans aren't willing to stand up for freedom, then the rest of us could be doomed. I put a lot of priority and pride in our Constitution and our tremendous history of standing up for that one thing, freedom worldwide. And it's been, my country is my number one, and it's let me down in the past 15 months. So I'm hoping we get our crap together. It doesn't look like it's going to happen for a while, but on behalf of the freedom-loving patriots here in this country, we are sorry, because I think when we cower, the rest of the world thinks it's okay to cower too, and it's not acceptable.
Well, that's exactly, I have to agree with you there, because, America is the country that the rest of the world says, oh, which way are they moving? Are they moving left? Okay, let's all move left. Are they moving right? Let's all move. Oh, my hair's just all styled out. But anyway, look at it. It's just all gone. Good thing about short hair, bad thing about short hair. But you know what I mean? They do. They sort of look at the rest of they go, oh, what are they doing? Oh, okay. And I'm thinking, guys, exactly that. It puts pressure on the country, a lot of pressure, because the world just waits to see what happens. But
and that's justified up until now. We have done a damn good job of
absolutely,
this freedom thing, and again globally. But boy, so that's the benefit of being in Florida. We are now renaming Florida Ron DeSantis land, and Floridians can go out and show their smiles, and we can go about our business.
I know.
It's so.
I'm so jealous.
I if I didn't live in Florida, I would be one of those people that had escaped to Florida.
Yeah. Well, the thing, because one of our mentors, Anthony Robbins, is in Florida, and there's also an Australian who goes and helps, and I feel sorry for him, because Anthony does all these events. He's doing like Tony Robbins. Yeah. I love Tony Robbins. But all these events he's doing, and this guy, Scott Harris, who works with Tony, has to fly back to Australia when he's finished, do 2 weeks quarantine, and his family actually brings him food to the hotel because he's that close to home, and yet he's not allowed to. He's now done, I think he's either his 5th or his 6th quarantine. And I said to him, move to Florida. And he said, my kids are not allowed to leave. And I thought, what? Yeah.
Not allowed to leave.
I know. True. I know, but it's
weird. But
seriously, I know we could talk about this forever, but it's just crazy. So, now, okay, I was going to say, let me see, because I wrote something here. I like how you said you're not until you go through such a challenge. You're like, oh no, we spoke about that. I want to speak more about your book, because like I said, I really want to know why you called it the noisy cancer comeback. I like that. The noisy cancer comeback.
So my noisy cancer comeback, and the little subtitle is running at the mouth while running for my life. And I'm known for being noisy. I work on a microphone, and I like things ruckus. I make my entire living on a microphone. And when it comes to race day, you can certainly hear me for miles around. I'm part of Team Noisy. I have a partner, and we're known as Team Noisy. So I'm a noisy person professionally, but then as I battle cancer, I didn't stop I continued to
Mm.
noise. I didn't back down. I didn't
Yeah.
take any pause from the noise making, and it just seemed like a good thing, that was a good title that was fitting for me. And it's interesting when you look at the other cancer books, and what I found is when people are diagnosed with something scary, whether it's MS or cancer or
Mm.
diabetes, they're looking for two things: information and hope.
Yeah.
And when you look at most of the books on Amazon, they're somewhat dark and dreary and terrifying. It's doom and gloom. And I just thought, I don't want any. No, I'm not going to read those. So then I wrote one that was uplifting and fun and funny. And I also got raw and real and told about all the gory details. I shared lots of gory details. And while I was going through it, I told basically nobody anything. So people would say, how are you? I'd say I was fine, even though I might have been sick on the bathroom floor texting, I'm fine. I don't do well with pity. I'm averse to pity. And I also felt like, people knowing that I was so sick, that wasn't going to benefit them at all. They probably could have helped me. And that's just not what I'm about. I'm about health and happiness. And I didn't want to be a burden. However, in hindsight, I've decided now that I'm done with it, people can't pity me now. Look at me. I am unpitiable. I'm doing great. And so if you pick up the book today, you can look at what happened to me and maybe you'll feel like, golly, that seems really rough. But then on the next page, you'll be laughing about something ridiculous, and humor, sarcasm, bright side of a lot of chaotic things. It's up, down as cancer goes. And it was very funny. It was some of the experiences were just hilarious and amazing. And the kindness of strangers. Those are some of the greatest things I like to share. I can't be like, it was a wonderful year and a half, but amongst the darkness, there were so many wonderful things experienced.
Absolutely. And I agree with you because, I remember when I told my sisters, they were, oh, hey, Grace. I'm like, guys, I'm not dying. I'm not dead. So if I was a crap head yesterday to you, I'm a crap head today to you.
Right.
So don't treat me any differently. Exactly that. I didn't want the pity party because I'm thinking, oh, don't pity me. Because the thing is, I have to admit, two things, I guess, but the biggest one is my husband is he's a life coach, and he's learned under Tony Robbins, So I live with a life coach, and this life coach can be tough sometimes. So, but one of the things he would do is every day he would open the blinds in the morning and say, right, get up, we're moving. So he didn't let me. He allowed me to grieve because it's funny because you actually go through the grieving periods in cancer, the denial, the resentment, all of these things you do, the anger. But he didn't let me unpack my bags in a pity party. He would always be like, no, you need to move forward, to the point where I thought I need to stand up. And if this is going to get me, it's going to get me while I'm standing,
So it's interesting you say that, because my tentative title for the book was Watch Me Stand Up. And so people, it's interesting on social media, see a lot of people, even running, runners, I love my runners, but they'll be like, I sprained my ankle, pray for me. Look, I fell and scratched my knee, pray for me. And I think, really, you're going to eat up all the prayers on your sprained ankle? But so many people are hyper-focused on wanting to show the hard stuff and look at the pity. And so, or that's what they want. Oh, just so you know, my boyfriend broke up with me, or dad died 7 years ago. Like, what are you hoping to get from that? I just personally can't identify with that. So a lot of people like to be seen while they're down. And I thought the title for a while would be Watch Me Stand Up. That was it. So I didn't go with that way, but it could have worked as well. I like that you had the same thing. You just got to stand up.
Yeah. Oh, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die standing. But exactly that, because, I do know of someone whose sister is actually being cancer free, And yet she goes around like, oh, you're not giving me that pity party anymore. Don't give it to me. I didn't want it before. I didn't want it after. Like exactly what you said. You know, it's the people. What happens is misery loves company. So they stay together and, oh, you know, and they keep them down. Oh, you poor thing. No, like I said just recently in one of my podcasts, it's not that I'm not looking to the people that are 2 years or 3 years cancer free. Good, go gun ho. But when there's a lady who says I'm 25 years cancer free, I'm going where you're going.
Yeah.
I'm heading to where you are. You know what I mean? That's where I'm going. I'm not, you know what I mean? And that's where everyone should be going. But there's those people who, for the first time in a long time, they feel significant. They feel like they're doing, I'm getting looked after. So they stay in that pity party mode, and that ain't going to get you anywhere in life.
No, and that's actually one of the big themes of the book is that, you know, you get no extra points for being the most pathetic person in the room. You know, if there's a party and you choose to sit on the side and be lame, okay, fine, but you don't win anything for it. There's no long-term benefit. That's one of the reasons I didn't want to wear the word cancer patient or pink ribbon. I didn't want that to be what I was about. And so, yeah, as I roamed through airports, bald people knew. People knew I didn't have to tell them. I didn't want to tell them, but I just thought, I'm going to take care of me and I'm going to do the things I do. And, you know, kindly people would pick up my luggage and put it over in the overhead bin, or, you know, people would give me snacks or drinks, maybe more excessively nice, but I wasn't seeking it out. And, you know, there was a couple of rare opportunities where I actually needed to ask for help, and I did. But I don't ever want to be, I don't know.
Like you said, you needed that help physically, or, you know, because you need to nourish your body or things like that. But you weren't at the front of the plane going, everyone, I've got cancer and you guys need to be here to do whatever you're not saying that, you're not calling it out. You know what I mean? I don't walk into a room and go, hi, I had breast cancer. My name's Grace. You know, like when I tell people my story and then they go, oh, hang on a minute. So hang on. Are you telling me that you had breast cancer? I'm like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's just part of my journey. That's part of my life.
So this was a great experience. And anyone who's been through it, and, you know, I mean, some women are losing one breast or both breasts. And we all have scars, right? There's things about us that are not right anymore. I was announcing the Big Sur Marathon, which is a very big deal. And, it's in Northern California. And so I was super bald. I was super sick. I was still in the mean chemo phase, but I was there to do, you know, just do my best. I was hanging by a thread, but I was getting ready for the VIP party. So before race weekend, we have a fancy dinner one night for the sponsors and the mayor and, you know, whoever the big wigs are. And so I put on a dress and I was in the bathroom getting ready, and there I was. I mean, I was a mess. It just was bald, and I think I had like one little wiggly hair on the top of my head. And I also, when I lost my hair, my tan line from my lifelong stayed. So I actually had a skunk stripe. You know, I didn't feel good at all. And I was in this dress thinking, oh my God, I look like Shrek in a dress. And it was defeating, to say the least. But I stood there in the mirror and I was waiting for my announcing partner, Rudy, to come get me. And I just thought, you know, I remember just taking that deep breath saying, you know, until you make it, fake it. You got to show up. You got to smile. You got to be Fitz Koehler. And so he came to get me, and we went over to the party, and I decided, stand up straight. Just stand up as straight as you can. Own it. And so I did. And the next day, this gaggle of women came over. They were at the party the night before, and they were like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. We love your head and you're so stylish. And do you model? And I was like, what? Oh, I had cancer. And they were blown away. And I don't tell that story like, I don't know. But because I chose to stand up, they just thought I was this cocky girl who shaved her head and showed up to be super edgy and glam. And then I learned, okay, I can pull this off. You know, I may not feel great. I may not like the way I look, but if I stand up straight and put a smile on my face, people will believe me. And I did. I did a lot of faking it for a very long time. But, you know, I could have been in the side of the room like, oh, get me a tea. But yeah, I chose to smile and it worked.
Well, that's the same because, as I said before earlier on, that I cut my hair off because I was going through that crazy time in my hair. And everyone's like, oh my God, Grace, you look amazing. And I'm like, I feel amazing. No one knew. No one knew what I was going through. And I'm like, yeah. And it's exactly, they must have went, wow, Grace is going through a transformation. Look at this girl. And I'm like, yeah, I just cut my hair. You know but internally, the thing is for me, I was hiding behind my big long hair. I was hiding who I truly was. So for me to cut it all off, it was liberating. And like I said, it was just bad timing. So it had nothing to do with the cancer, but it was liberating. But to everyone else, it was like, look at Grace walk into the room. Wow, she owns it. And like you said, it's not that you're cocky about it. It's like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to stand up and do this.
Yeah.
People had like yourself, people had no idea. People just thought Grace has gone through a fashion transformation.
Well,
that's exactly what I went through. That's it, you know.
It's interesting. There's all these Hollywood actors and actresses who may actually not be the most beautiful people in the world, but they present themselves as such, and we fall for it. We go, okay.
Yes.
Confidence is very sexy and
absolutely
is attractive. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to do my best and see how it goes. And it worked. And so hopefully other people going through not only hair loss because of cancer or alopecia or any other situation, maybe they've got burns on their face or something.
Absolutely.
You know, stand up straight as you can and smile and own who you are, and people will buy it. I truly believe that.
I think so too. That is perfect how you just ended that, because no matter what you're going through, just stand up and just go forward, because life is going, and you know, and I talk about that too. And you mentioned it in your book where you didn't just deal with cancer. Life throws you curveballs all the time. You're like, you can't go, oh, listen, life, can you time out? I'm going through this. Could you just no. So in the meantime, you might as well go, you know what? It's okay. I'm going through this journey. It's all great.
Control what you can. That is one of these big things I live by life by is control what you can. And so I know the difference between things I have strong influence over, and if I don't, I remove myself from it, or at least I remove it from my mind. I never obsess over things that I have no control over. And if some things don't work out for me, okay, so be it. I'll move on. Life's still good.
Well, the thing, it's like that serenity prayer, you know, you change your thing. Yeah. And it was quite funny because I remember on my way to get my results, I'm like, I'm sure the universe is here for me. I'm saying, you know, I've got this. And then I came across this massive billboard about our football, and it said, we've got your back.
Oh,
and I thought, thank you. That's all I needed, because that was just that extra, you know what? I've got this. I've got this, you know. But oh my God, I've loved speaking to you. I've probably gone over a little bit over your time, and I apologize. But is there anything else now that for those, I'll have the link below where you can purchase your book through Amazon. So I've already got that organized, so people can go to my website and they just click on your book and it'll take them to Amazon and they can purchase the book. I can't wait to get the book, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. Hopefully you'll allow me to interview you, because I'll be like, so anyway, in the book.
Well, so fun, because you would be super fun to talk about it. It's really actually nice. I have breast cancer patients or survivor or any other cancer person. And they're like, oh my God, I had that too. And, you know, again, we can move on, but on occasion there's some stuff that's that only you and someone who's
Like you said before, you can bag it because you've been through it. So it's like, yeah, I know what you're saying, sister. I've been there, you know.
So, I guess it was last year, the University of Florida. So I'm a graduate. That's where I got my undergrad and my master's degree. But they invited me to come speak at a breast cancer function they had after one of the gymnastics meets. And I was still going through cancer at the time. And what was I going to call it? It was like, it was something about cancer. And then I thought, I don't want to poke the bear, so I didn't want to like do something that would come back and bite me. And I'm not even superstitious. I thought, but yeah, it was called something like the funny side of cancer. And I had a room. We had a couple hundred people in there, mostly breast cancer survivors. And we were in hysterics. We were belly laughing. And so I was like 3 days post chemo while I was standing up there. And it was just a really friendly environment. And, when you start going into the absurd things, half the room has had the same exact thing. It's just, that's my favorite part about speaking about cancer. And I love speaking about fitness. Fitness is where my heart is, and that's who I am. But the benefit about speaking about cancer is, I can actually light up a room based on my lack of nostril hair and some other absurdities. And that means a lot. If you can make cancer a fun topic, then I feel like I'm doing a good job.
Well, that's exactly right, because out there, there's so, like we were talking before, there's so much fear behind it that people, as soon as you say it, they get all defensive, and it's like, no, it's okay. It's okay. Let's talk about it. But like you said, don't look at it that way. Yeah, look at the seriousness if you're going through it. We're not telling you to just don't worry about it. Just make it a fun thing. But look at it as in, that's why I called what I do my hero's journey, because I think everyone is a hero on their own journey in life. And that's why I wanted to call it Breast Cancer Hero's Journey, because to me, no matter what's happening, you're the hero of your own story. When you go back to your journals and you read what you went through and you go, wow, I actually went through that.
Yeah.
And then you laugh as well. Some of the stuff you write in there. Like I remember going through a 6-week course with Gabrielle Bernstein, and she says, oh, write this thing down, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to die. I'm not going to make it to 50 and all this. And exactly right. And then I look back and I'm like, Jesus Grace, get a bit more dramatic on you. But it was real.
Dramatic. Justifiably so, right?
But you know what I mean? But that's why I call them now scars and not wounds, because if I look back on it and I'm still crying, it's still an open wound. Yeah. So I look back, and some of the things, like I remember sharing some stuff with my husband, and he's like, oh, wow, Grace, that's really harsh on yourself. I'm like, oh, check what I said about myself here. And I'm laughing, thinking, but that's why I want people to, I talk about it, and I'm not sure if you've done it yourself, where you journal, because you can look back and realize how far you've come. Your book is your journal. Your book is your journal.
So it's interesting. If you go to publishing experts, they say if you write a memoir, do not do it in chronological order. And so where the hell, blah, blah, blah. You'll see dates, it's like April 1st, Thursday. So what I decided was I had to write things in order, because everybody wants to know, okay, when did you get diagnosed? When was your previous mammogram? When did you start chemo? When did you start radiation? Yes. Dates really matter. I actually did not journal while I was going through it. I don't have a diary. I never have. But because my chemo, all our medical appointments are so regimented, if my cell phone can tell me when I had chemo number 1, and then I knew that, 12 days later at the LA Marathon is where my hair fell out. And so I was able to go very specific back to each day. And I just chose to hit the highlights type thing. I didn't drag on and drone about this or that, but those dates were for me, because of my very rigid schedule. I was easy to pull up what happened. But yeah, it's, I don't know if it was cathartic, because I'm so easy breezy.
Yeah.
Once I was done, I was like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah. Let's move on.
Move on. Hair, go back. I have a mullet now. I don't know if you've seen Miley Cyrus and her very unattractive mullet she's been wearing lately. And I love Miley's voice, but she purposely has this thing. So mine's not intentional. The hair up in front was growing really slow, and the hair back was really long. So I braid it all the time. But if I
love it.
You'd be horrified. You'd say, put that away.
I love your hair. I love your hair. Honestly, when I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, you know, my personal opinion, in my hallucination, like we say, I prefer your hair like this.
To my long hair.
To your long hair. I love it. That's just my personal opinion, but you don't have to take it on board.
No. You know what? I've spent my whole life as a long-haired girl, and I loved it. I actually loved having a high swinging ponytail. It was really a ponytail. That's why I always had super long hair. But this I really like. Bleaching it. I like the color a lot. I actually like when the roots come in. If perhaps it wasn't a mullet, I might be satisfied. So if I can get this hair to come down here, I may be a shorter haired girl. We'll
see. Well, what's next for Fitz? Where does Fitz go from here? What's happening in the next, if you want to share, some things that's happening coming up?
So a few things. Races are finally coming back to life here. And even our most liberal states, California and New York, their governors are finally tapping out and saying, y'all can open up and go back to life. So I'm super excited that I'll have race work again. I have some corporate speaking things. I'm dying to get back to audiences. I love people teaching and making it rah-rah. My podcast, or broadcast, I should say, the Fitzness Show, is doing really well. And every week I have some pretty iconic athletes and coaches and actors coming on, which is much like this format. Is working really well. I enjoy the long conversations with people. What else? I'm running the Boston Marathon in October.
Hey,
yeah. So
that'll be awesome.
Yeah, so
I'll have to keep an eye on it. Make sure that there's someone filming you live.
Oh Lord,
someone who's following you with a camera.
Yeah, I'll let them peek in at like the beginning and the end, because I get a little cranky in the middle when I'm working hard. But,
get away.
Yeah. I've never done a full before. I've done half marathons, never.
Wow.
This is an opportunity for me to go back to being full force athlete. So I've worked my way over the past year towards being strong and fit, and someone I'm proud to be who I am again. I put on much of the weight I lost, but running the Boston Marathon will feel pretty badass. I don't feel like, okay, I'm an athlete again. I don't know. And then book number 2 will follow, or book number 3, I should say. The next one.
Have you got a second book? Have you?
Huh?
Have you got a second book?
We do. It's the Everything Flat Belly Cookbook, and that was published about a decade ago. So this one, this is my journey, but the next one I will use my fitness expertise and guide other people through and back from cancer. So it'll be your healthy cancer comeback. And why not use my experience and my expertise to help other people maintain fitness, or regain it like I had to do.
Absolutely. And I look forward to it. Maybe if our country allows us to move, maybe I can get to the Boston Marathon and see you. I'll be on the sidewalk. I'll be there on the side with my little, hey, remember me?
It's a little sign. I'd rather come see you in Australia. I've never.
Oh my God, please, my home will be open to you anytime you decide to come. Honestly, please come and visit. I just hope that, this thing does blow over sooner than later, because, like we said, it does affect a lot of women, especially, or a lot of people, because they're too afraid to go and do their recalls or their annual checkups, or they're at that age that they need to go and they're not doing it. So, I absolutely loved having you. I mean, your spirit, your energy. I just like. Woo, I'm just in a cold environment. In the sense, we're not cold, but because it's winter here. But I just feel that positive energy, and I thank you so much for being on my podcast. And I can't wait. I can't wait to get the book. As soon as I get the book, I'm going to take a photo of myself with the book so you can see it. Here's the book, and then I'm going to I'll let you know that I've read it. It'll probably be 24 hours later. I am one of these people that can read a book from start to end very quickly. But I do thank you again, and I appreciate your time. And is there anything you want to say just before we leave?
Grace, this has been a pleasure. I'm going to consider you one of my new BFFs, and I'm keeping you.
Thank you.
Of course, of course.
Thank
And, the thing that I do is help folks live better and longer. So, I always say following me is nice, but I'd much rather people reach out and say hi, because I'd rather have friends than followers. And anything I can do to help everyone out there take better care of themselves, do better, and be better, I'd love the opportunity. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been a blast, Grace.
And I agree, because I think you've got so much more knowledge in what you went through than I do. And it's not being, comparing, but I would rather send people to yourself and say, well, you know what, this is what Fitz went through. Get her book, have a chat with her, because the thing is, I'm like I can tell, I could tell you about a certain part of it, but of course, when it comes to other parts, I would rather take you to an expert and not, again, pretend I'm an expert because I've read something,
Hey, Grace, why don't we just team up and help as many of them as
Oh, absolutely. That's what I mean. But, I want people to reach out, and also, if I could talk to them and help them, great. If not, I'm going to be sending them to you. But for everyone, thank you so much for watching and listening in. And I can't wait to have you guys listen in on my next episode. And I wish you all so much love and light. So thanks, guys.